What's up, everybody? I'm Johnny Christ, and this is Drinks with Johnny. Thank you so much for checking out the show, and thank you so much to Sweet Drop CBD oil. I've been talking about this for several weeks now, guys. I just love this Sweet Drop CBD oil. It's been great. I start off every show with it, put it underneath the tongue. Blood orange is a good flavor. And if you head over to sweetdrop.com, you can learn everything about CBD or cannabis oil that you need to know, and use promo code DrinksWithJohnny, and you're going to receive 20% off if you do so. I enjoy it. I think you will too. Learn everything you need to know about it. It doesn't need to change your mind or anything like that. It's not a drug. It's a health supplement. So head over to sweetdrop.com and use promo code DrinksWithJohnny. Now, on today's episode, I am super jacked, super excited. I got the very funny comedian, Brian Posehn. I'm just going to bring him on real quick. How you doing today, man?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great. So you got like a little arcade going on behind you. What's going on over there?
This was my office. Well, it still is, and we're turning it into a game room for my son. So we just, when he gets to be a teenager, we want him to hang out here and with his friends and not go anywhere else. So we've got a Deadpool pinball machine. There's a sit-down Miss Pac-Man over here, and I'm gonna get a 720 soon, and we're gonna make this like a full game room. And of course, over here is like all the platform games like PS4 and all that stuff. So.
Oh, rad! So it's like a whole gaming room, but it used to be your office.
Yeah, it still is.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you still get to hang out there too. And how old did you say your son was?
He's 11.
He's 11. Okay.
He's acting like he's a teenager already. Like during the pandemic, he turned 11 and he said, "I'm a preteen now," and then just started acting like a preteen.
That's funny. I got a 3-year-old that's doing that. So I'm glad you brought that up. Everyone's good in your camp under the pandemic. No, everyone's healthy and safe right now, right?
Yeah, you too?
Yeah, we're doing good. Thank you for asking. I did see that you did something really cool this year under the pandemic. You and your son did your guys' own Comic-Con because San Diego Comic-Con couldn't happen, right? So...
It's become a big thing for he and I. Like I was bringing him toys before he went down with me, but then he's been going to the con with me since he was like 6. So, and he's been to New York Comic Con, and I built a mini nerd. I basically made a tiny version of myself.
So it's like Mike Myers. I shall call him Mini Me.
He's into the same shit as me, and so we we've been going to Comic Con, and this year was a huge disappointment. And but then these shops started to open up, and I was like, oh, this is a way to have him have a fun day, but also support these shops that I like. They were all places that I've gone to over the years, like Earth 2 and in my neighborhood, but then Golden, what is it? What's the big one? A Golden Apple over in Hollywood, and Meltdown's not there anymore, but we went to like 5 shops in one day and made it like a full Comic-Con day.
That's so rad.
In Santa Monica, and then made it to the Valley where we live eventually.
So has he been able to read your version with Gerry Duggan of Deadpool?
No, 11. I think still, like, I don't care if some other people let their 11-year-olds read Deadpool, but I'm not letting my 11-year-old read Deadpool.
What was it like writing that though? So that's your buddy Gerry Duggan, right? And you guys wrote it years ago now, but do you think it had any effect on the Deadpool movie franchise?
Well, the timing was good. I mean, I think they were already working on that first movie when we were starting our book, but it's just, I can't believe how popular Deadpool's gotten just in the last 5
Well, you put years. Ryan Reynolds on it. I mean, Jesus.
Yeah, but it was kind of just perfect timing of us, and then the game happened at the same time, and then the first Ryan Reynolds movie came out, and then next thing I knew, Deadpool was everywhere. Like at the cons, like half the people were cosplaying as Deadpool or variations of him, and it was pretty cool. But we didn't have anything to do with the movie, but I love the movie, and I feel like, it's part of why he blew up is the comics were good, the game was good, you know, the movie was good, and people just got excited about this character.
I love comics. I love the movies. More so the movies. I'm lazy and I don't go out and read the comics as much. But like I do love the movies. And when I went and saw Deadpool, I was really excited that they made a movie of Deadpool in first place. And when I went out and saw it, I was like, this is a great way to show the expansion of comic book lore, if you will, in a way. It's not all here's some mutants here's the good guys, here's the bad guys kind of thing. Like it's so
right. No, there's
so
different
involved.
types of stories, and yeah. No, and I love that they did it rated R, and they kept his tone, and that they didn't over studio it. You know, like I think the only reason it got made is because Ryan was so into doing that version of it.
Totally.
And then, you know, so studios always go, well, you know, if the star's happy, maybe we'll keep our hands out of it or whatever. I think that has a lot to do with it. You know, either having a big director or a star attached, it can kind of keep it more pure if, you know, unless they want to fuck it up.
Well, I'm sure that's happened too.
It does. Yeah.
I don't know that much about that world, but real quick, well, since we're in that world, I got to ask you, one of the first times I ever was introduced to Brian Posehn was your quick role in the TV show Friends, where you give Joey his script that is letting him know he's about to die on that show that he's
right.
the soap opera.
And then I just played like 90s slacker. I was wearing like an army jacket, and
and I think you played that a couple of times. I think you were on Seinfeld for that. Like there was like
I got cast as that guy a couple of times. The guy, the 90s guy, who just rolls his eyes and says something sarcastic, like, "Well, I don't think that's gonna work out," you know, that kind of thing.
Did you have any? I have to ask real quick. Did you have any interaction with the you know, the now known star-studded cast of Friends or Seinfeld or anything? Like, was there beyond the what we see in those camera rolls?
So when you do those shows, you're there for about almost every time I've done a sitcom, you're there for 5 days. So you do the table read, and so you meet everybody at the table read. But like, people don't know, I think, how easy a sitcom actor's life really is. So like, most of them, they do the table read on Wednesday morning, and then they're done. And they're done for the day. So they got there at 9 a.m. They leave at 10:30, and then the next day is when the rehearsal starts. So yeah, you do get to meet the people during the week. And with Seinfeld, like, he went out of his way because I had auditioned for the show, I think 3 times before, and every time he was in the room, and which isn't always the case. Usually the star isn't there unless they're the big executive producer of the show. And of course he was, but he was always like, "Hey man, keep coming back. We like you. You're funny." And so you don't hear that. And so that was encouraging. And I really wanted to get in there on the last year. And so that's what wound up happening. I think my episode was maybe 6th to the last in that last year. And, so I get cast, and I show up there, and I'm running it, and Jerry's not even in my scene, but of course he's watching it every time, and he could not have been cooler. And he knew I was a stand-up, so he came, you know, he said, "Hey, you still do the clubs?" And I'm like, "Yeah, all the time." And, you know, and then that was it. Our interaction's done. But so
he didn't come see you on any of your stand-up events?
Other people have, but that one, he was just like, "Well, that's cool." And then we moved on. But then at the end of the week, he goes, "Hey, I don't know if you've noticed, but we overshoot. And I've never had anybody be this cool about it, like warn you that you might get cut out." He's like, "You know, you're in 2 extra scenes. We don't know if we're going to use all that." And, you know, I appreciated him being real. And then it wound up, some of it did get cut, but then I wound up being on the DVD of it. But man, to be that level and still like look out for somebody else's feelings and go, "Hey man," you know, because most of the time no one gives a shit about the actor or your feelings.
Yeah, I mean,
it would never tell you, you know.
Yeah, that's a consummate to who Jerry Seinfeld is, and you know, he's, you know, his life has been chronicled at this point, and how he's come up, and his his love for stand-up comedy, and I think you just touched upon that, right? I mean, it seems.
I
like
think that had a lot to do with it. I don't know if he would have been as nice to me if I was just an actor, which is kind of shitty. But I think. But I think a lot had to do with that I was a brother, that I was a stand-up, and I think that had a lot. I think
he seems to pull from that whole thing. And speaking of your stand-up comedy, it's quarantine days, it's COVID-19, even if it's not full quarantine at this point, still pandemic. But on September 11th, you have Grandpa Metal coming up, where you're going to do like a live stream.
The 19th, actually.
It's at the 19th. I'm sorry.
Sorry to correct you.
Yeah, no, that's okay. Hey, it's a conversation. You can correct me anytime you want. But there's tickets on sale right now at rushtix.com. And why don't you tell me a little bit about this live stream that you're going to be doing?
So it's an experiment for me. People have been doing them. People are starting to go back into the clubs. I don't feel confident about that. And then part of the problem is if you're a headliner, the clubs can't fill. They can't, and you don't want them full anymore.
Totally.
So they're all at like quarter capacity, and so I really can't go out on the road. I've been dying. My whole schedule got, as I'm sure, I don't know. Did you guys have like a big summer full? Did your whole summer go?
Or were you
taking the summer off?
Well, I say fortunate, and that's not the correct word, but we've been writing a new record for a while now. So we didn't have any tours that we had to cancel or anything like that. But I mean, all of my friends, all my friends,
all my friends are in bands, and
yeah. And we'll get to all those friends that helped you put together Grandpa Metal over the 6 years.
Cool, yeah. So, but for me personally, my whole year went away, and I still want to get out on the road. I still had all these jokes. I've been writing new jokes. And it's like, so what do you do? And so I'm going to do a version, like it's going to be in this room. I'm probably going to throw up a green screen. We're trying to figure it out.
No. You can't do a green screen. I need to see you playing your Deadpool pinball machine in the between. Like a joke really goes well, you just turn around and just, yep, that was a good one, and then start playing the game.
Or if I start sucking it, just pick up a controller. You guys want to pretend we're on Twitch and just watch me play a game instead?
Well, that's the standard right now. It's the gold standard.
Right. So anyway, it's me and my buddy Johnny Taylor, and then we're going to have some special musical guests from my album Grandpa Metal, and just see what happens. But it's going to be mostly new jokes, and people are buying tickets, and it's a strange new time. But
I'm excited. Now that I know that this is your first venture, and you're just kind of like going to see what happens in a little way, I'm even more excited to see that now. I'm like, oh, let's go to rushtix.com. I'm gonna go see Brian Posehn, because he doesn't even really know how it's going to work out. So this is going to be like full live, full ready to go. I mean, that's what we're starving for right now, is live entertainment. So let's go check out Brian Posehn.
It's gonna be rusty, like when a stand-up hasn't been on the stage in 7 months. It's a weird thing. Who knows?
I mean, well, how do you rehearse for that? I mean, like, so I know you don't. So like, you don't. In a normal setting, when you're doing a stand-up comedy tour, at that point, do you already have your material ready? I mean, I know comedians work differently, but I was curious for you specifically. Do you already have your material ready? Are you going to smaller venues to work out material in between the big days? What's your process?
Yeah, that's normal. That's like how I create a new special. Is I'll do sets around town, and then when I'm on the road, I'll be doing those new jokes, and then I'll flesh them out, and also combine them. I'll take this joke and put it next to this one, and kind of structure the set. Most of that gets done on the road now, and then I shoot the special. And then this year we were gearing up for me to shoot a special. So then we were interrupted by the world.
So are we going to see some of the stuff that you had ready for the special on
yeah, it'll be
19th?
some of that, and then a bunch of jokes that I've written in the last 6 months about the current situation.
Oh, I can't
of course,
wait for that.
No one wants to, dwell on that, and it's not going to get too political, because I've never been that guy. But I'll talk about the current shit that we're going through.
I mean, you kind of have to, right? You can't just go out there and do something without talking about it.
Yeah, I couldn't just jump into my jokes I wrote 6 months ago and go, what about Nancy Pelosi or whatever it is? We'll just go, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, what about what we're going through?
I'm
weirdo?
talking about Seinfeld. You can't go back to airplane food jokes. No one's getting airplane food, so it's not
right.
So let's get into a little bit of what did happen this year. Is you finally released Grandpa Metal. I know that this was a project you worked on for I believe it was like 6 years or something. Can you walk me through that process, and then we could get into track by track? I listened to it. I love it. Let's talk about it.
Well, clearly I wasn't a priority at the record label that they let me take 6 years. I mean, is that unheard of?
Well, no. That I think quite the opposite, Brian. I think that means you were such a priority. They gave you the space and said, "You do you."
Well, that's part of it. Yeah, so we did it for Megaforce, and I grew up with Megaforce. Been a metalhead since I was a teenager, and so it's pretty surreal. So the background on it is I had done these stand-up records for Relapse and I had always done a couple of songs on each record, and with Scott Ian and with these other friends of ours, and there was always the idea of, hey man, let's do a full comedy metal record. I want to do 10 songs. You can sit down, put your headphones on, and have it be like a cohesive, funny but also heavy experience. And so then that's what we did. We sold it to Megaforce, and then started writing songs, and we wrote maybe 2 in the first year, and then started to get guests on it, but it was just really slow going. And part of that is because I'm so busy before this, and then also Scott Ian being your main guy. He's been touring.
He's got how many other projects he's working on?
3 other bands, and then plus Anthrax's schedule. And so we wound up, the other guys that were involved, like Brendan Small and my buddy Joe Troman from Fall Out Boy and Scott's other band, The Damn Things. They wound up having to help me to fill out the rest of the record. Like the last year that before the record came out, we wrote 3 songs just to get it done, because my producer was like, you got to finish this, and you're short. You're like 3 songs short.
Who was the producer on that, by the way?
Jay Rustin.
Okay.
So he's done Amon Amarth and Anthrax, and he's been around.
Oh, awesome.
Good dude. And he lives near me. So that was part of it, was like, for me, it was convenient. It was like when I had new lyrics or I had something I wanted to work out, I'd just go over to his house and do it. But it also made me kind of lazy. It's like,
I mean, sometimes you can work lazy. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
That's how I started a fucking podcast, man. From my house.
To the other guys.
I have to walk upstairs.
Oh, right.
That's all I have to do.
I have a D&D podcast that we just do out of here too. So yeah,
I know, I saw that. I love it. So you call it nerd poker though, and I was like, what is this nerd poker? Then I started like looking at it, and I was like, well, there's no poker being played. It's just you guys playing Dungeons and Dragons.
It was me trying to be clever, because I've always called D&D nerd poker. Between my friends, I've always said, because poker and D&D, they're really, to me, about hanging with your buddies and having this regularly scheduled thing where you get to hang with them, and then the game is kind of secondary to me. It's more about the hang, and that's what I was trying to do with nerd poker, but it's confusing. So like the people that know, but I'm sure there's been a million people that have gone, hey, there's no poker in this.
No, but I did enjoy listening to it though, and I'm glad you talk about D&D. I'm not a Dungeons and Dragons guy, but I do have a cousin that was really into it. Or I saw it, and he tried to get me into it. I just couldn't. But I do respect it, and especially now. I don't know if you've seen on Netflix the High Score miniseries that came out or whatever, and one of the guys that started RPG games was talking about how he brought it from Dungeons and Dragons, and they go
for
into,
sure.
Yeah, and it's like, and then I see the camaraderie that you're talking about. buddies getting together. You know what? I mean, it's what jocks don't want to hear, but jocks wish they had Dungeons and Dragons, and that's why they created fantasy football.
Oh, absolutely. I've said that on stage before. It's the same thing.
It's the same goddamn thing.
And it's actually almost nerdier.
Oh, it's way
Fantasy
nerdier.
football is almost nerdier because they actually use the word fantasy in it. Fantasy football.
That's so good.
So tough.
Yeah. All the jocks that that played football and or played name any of the sports, they got fantasy basketball, all of them. And I've tried to dabble in that too. And I don't have the attention span for that. My own brothers have created leagues, and then I get auto drafted. I mean, with these days you get auto drafted, and I still end up in third. I'm like, okay, I watch football enough. I don't need this in addition.
Honestly, it seems like more work.
It's so much more work
than D&D. Like D&D, you build your character in the beginning, and then shit just happens to him, and you react to it.
And you always have a master guy, right? What do you call the master
and the dungeon master walks you through the story and creates things, whether he's using a story from a book or he's creating his own using a module, or he's doing his own story and just going at it.
That's got to be a talent. That's got to be a talent in its own, though, right? Because I mean, again,
crazy.
I have not played. I've seen the Dungeon Master. One of the coolest depictions, I would say, of a Dungeon Master I've seen was on Community when Abed, the character Abed, is Dungeon Master and stuff like that. I found that very intriguing. I'm talking about it right now with you, and I'm like, maybe I really need to pick up this Dungeons and Dragons thing in my old age of 35. Maybe it's not.
You should try it because you don't have to be that smart to play it. It's the
wait. Was that a sled? I mean, not being that smart.
No, because I'm not. I'll get into it. I realized I was slamming you, but I was trying to slam myself because I would never ever want to run a game, but to play a game, it's not. It's super fun. I mean, you're just acting out, and it is like Skyrim, and it is like those role playing games you played on PS4. But you can be at any level. I didn't mean to.
No, I'm totally teasing.
I feel like people are scared of it because we have people come on Nerd Poker all the time as guests, and they go, "I've never played," and have you improv'd? Yeah. Have you done this? Yeah. So you can pick it up pretty quickly.
Yeah. I actually think that would be a lot of fun,
even if you're a dumb bassist
for a shitty band. I've only seen it this way where everyone's taking it extremely seriously, and that's fine. You only need to, if you answer this question correctly, I will be into Nerd Poker, Dungeons and Dragons, as you say. Can there be drinking involved?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, I'm in.
Well,
I'm in.
Our old
That's all you had
game,
to say.
before it was a podcast, it was always about whiskey and donuts, really. And it would be like a 4-hour thing. Somebody would bring the whiskey and somebody else would bring the fattening food. And,
that's okay. So I'm in on that.
Really
I'm in on that.
Like poker, it's a hang. It's
totally
the same kind of thing.
If it's a hang involving alcohol, I'm totally in. So you said whiskey though, and I saw on your Twitter feed the other day you did or maybe it was a while ago. I'm sorry, but it was you've talked about whiskeys quite a few times. What is your choice of whiskey? Do you have a cocktail with it? Do you drink it neat on the rocks? What's your go-to drink?
I love an old fashioned. Old fashioned, and I'm kind of new to it. Maybe in the last 4 or 5 years, that's become my regular drink. But and then I also just love sipping whiskey. And I like bourbons. I like ryes. I was also a Scotch guy. I feel like I've checked out all the big ones, and I love Weller 12. It's made by the same people that make Pappy Van Winkle, but you're not spending $1,200 for it.
No shit, man. Every time I get some Pappy, I was just like, before the pandemic, there was a bar here in Orange County I was able to go to, and they literally had every year of Pappy Van
Oh,
Winkle.
wow.
And you could buy it as a what do you call that? A bunch of shots on a tray, and it's a tasting tray, if you will. And it was not cheap, but it was a lot of fun to go through.
It's kind of worth it, though.
It's totally worth it.
I think it is the best tasting whiskey I've ever had. The actual Pappy, but Weller is a close proximity. It's a 12-year, and it tastes like an $800 bottle or $1,200 bottle.
You know, what's funny is I'm so glad you're saying this. I have not tried Weller. I'm going to as soon as
I would recommend it. I was doing research. I went online and I was like, what tastes like Pappy? And a couple people said that, and you never know, but I've gone through a couple bottles now and it turned other people onto it.
I appreciate you giving me that knowledge right now. When you did say that you were into Scotch for a little bit, though, like when you talk Scotch, do you prefer the mainland stuff? Isla, what region are you going for?
All over. I mean, because I got into it for a while, and then I found, and they're not allowed to call it Scotch if it's not obviously from Scotland, but McCarthy's out of Portland did a really good Scotch. There's a lot of good
Santori out of Japan. Yeah, I love Santori.
Mm-hmm. All that stuff, all the different things Santori makes, they make like, Mizaki and a couple others, right? Yeah, I like all that. I liked Belvany. I liked, McKellen 21. Lefroy, some of the.
You like Lefroy? Okay, this is Lefroy 10 is my go-to. Like, not to say that I have an alcoholic problem, but my everyday whiskey is like a Lefroy 10 because it's not super expensive, and you're only gonna have like one. It's super smoky. That's
a little peaty and smoky.
Mm-hmm.
And I liked Oban I never can pronounce it correctly.
Oban.
I think it's just Oban or Oban.
Yeah.
That 14.
Yeah,
you can find that
staple
anywhere for a while. Like even Costco carried that shit.
Dude, when Costco started carrying Lagavulin 16, Lagavulin 16 was the first Scotch that I got into, and I was like, the first peaty Scotch. It was like the gateway drug for peat for me, and I was like, they got Lagavulin fucking 16 here at Costco.
It's crazy what they have at Costco.
Dude, I love Costco. And the cool thing about it is if they don't already carry it from someone else, Kirkland will just go out to that region and set up shop and make the exact same thing in a place next to it. It's kind of shitty, but it's also
but it's good for the consumer.
Exactly. Because Kirkland will just go like, oh, you guys like this Sauvignon Blanc from New Zealand? Well, we're just going to partner up with them and make our own and sell it to you for half the cost.
Oh, Kirkland.
I digress, though. Let's get back into Grandpa Metal. I listened to the record.
Oh, cool.
I thought it was great, man. You guys, I know it's a comedy metal album, but there's a lot of intricate playing. I mean, there's some metal going on there, man. Do you play yourself, or were you just doing lyrics and vocals on it, or?
Yeah, so I wrote all the lyrics and the vocals, and then I did all the vocals. But no, I don't play. I play guitar. I have a bunch of guitars, and I love guitar, but I'm not at that level even close. So it was all Scott Ian, and then Brendan Small from Metalocalypse did a lot of the guitar too, and then all the guest guys, and I've made all these friends over the years. So on the other songs I've done, I had used Mark Morton before, and I used John Danaeus and from Shadows Fall and Anthrax, and when I did that, other guys were like, hey man, if you ever, Alex Skolnick was like, hey man, if you ever need me to do guitar parts on something, let me know. And so when this full record came together, I just called in every favor. I went to Gary Holt, I went to Chuck Billy, all these dudes. Singer for Amon Amarth on it, the singer for Huntress, who unfortunately isn't with us anymore.
Yeah, I know. Well, that was something I was going to ask about. So like with Jill Janis, again, for a lot of people, this record just came out. They might not know the backstory that this took 6 years for you to put together, if I'm not mistaken. And you're calling in all the favors in that time. You're talking about the singer Huntress. Let's talk about that one real quick. How did that come together, and how close were you? And obviously the unfortunate passing.
It sucks. I loved her. She became a pal because I just went to her shows and she saw me standing in the front row and we started talking.
It's pretty hard to miss Brian Posehn in a crowd, by the way.
Yeah, and when you're playing like a small club in LA and I'm the biggest guy in the room, just standing there.
How tall are you? Like legit? Like what is it?
Almost 6'7" when I stand up straight. I'm 6'6". I always say the height of the beast. I'm 6'6.6".
Beautiful. You could give me that if it's closer to 6'7". You could give me the rest of that because I'm saying that you're literally a full foot taller than me.
I'm a lot taller than a lot of people. My wife is a tiny person. So we just became friends. I'd seen her a couple of times at clubs in LA, and then went and saw Starbreakers and just became friends with her online. And she knew a lot of people I knew. And then we see each other at concerts. I saw her at the Scorpions in Santa Barbara, and we just were pals. And I asked her to do, and the funny thing is, so I asked her to do the funny song first, Goblin Love. And I had written it for her to do with me. I was hoping she would say yes. And I had written it like as a duet, but I was inspired by, people thought I was, what is it? Necrogoblicon, or what are they called? Do you know that band?
I know it. Yeah. You know, it's funny. I only know it because I saw a clip from Joe Rogan's podcast with Post Malone on it, and he was like, that. It was, and like the guy, I guess the lead singer,
he dresses up like a goblin. Yeah. It wasn't that. I had seen that, but what I was really inspired by was Black Dahlia Murder, where there was one track in particular where I think they have two singers usually, right? Or they at least have somebody doing backup. Yeah. So there was a song I heard and it sounded like a Yeti yelling at a witch. And it just, I was just high enough to like lose my shit. Like, you know, because that's the thing about metal. Like, it's so serious, but sometimes you have to laugh at it. Sometimes,
dude. I mean, I think that's part of it. That's, I mean, I grew
silly,
up,
but only we
metal,
can,
obviously.
like only metalheads can laugh at it. Cause like if somebody outside of us is like, hey, metal's kind of silly, we're like, fuck you, dude. But then when you're a metalhead, you're like,
it's so sacred.
When
But
you're
it's
metalhead,
really
you're
not.
like, it is a little silly. Like we've got Man of War. There's a history
it's so
of silly.
man. It's so silly. I love it. I mean, I obviously have grown up in it, like, you know, and like, oh, dude, it's, to me, that's, you know, I think you really touched upon it right there. It's really cool, is because it is ours, right? Once you become a metalhead, it's yours, and no one else can do anything to it. But in that realm where everyone else looks at it and says, "Oh, they're so serious and they're so dark and everything," but when you're with, you know, your metal friends and it's metal, everyone's laughing and talking shit on it. They're like it's
well,
it's
this
very
is not
communal.
very PC. This is not very PC, but it's a thing I used to say. I used to say that metal is like your developmentally disabled cousin, where you can make fun of him, but nobody else can.
I don't think that joke aged very well for you, bro.
No, it hasn't. And I used to call it, I didn't say developmentally disabled, but you know what I mean?
I can gather.
But I still, the sentiment is there. It's like I've been friends with developmentally disabled people. I grew up around them, and you can bust their balls. But if anybody else goes, "Hey, your cousin's retarded," you're like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah,
you know,
beat the shit out of them.
It's that thing. It's the same with metal.
Oh, dude, so good. Let's get back to, we keep going off topic, and that's great because this is what we do here at Drinks with Johnny. We fucking talk some shit. Let's get back to Grandpa Metal, and now let's talk a little bit about the collaborations. You've had a lot of, as you said, your friends that you've made throughout your career. I saw you. It's so funny that we haven't until this day really had a conversation, because we've passed each other several times on like the Revolver Awards, and we have a lot of mutual friends.
When the Metallica played downtown.
Oh no! Some of the other guys were. I was
some other guys in your band.
They were so
cool.
That was my son's birthday or something like around that day, and we had a plan. So, but yeah, some of the other guys went out and went to the downtown Metallica show.
But yeah, you and I have definitely bumped into each other.
Yeah.
What was the question though?
No, it wasn't really a question. We're just talking.
Right.
No, but I'll start asking questions. And so, how did obviously a comedian? One of my favorite parts. It wasn't even really a song on this record. Is your banter with Weird Al in between talking about covering Lump, Gump, and Trump. It was a really good banter. Was that a legit phone call that you recorded, or were you guys like in a studio?
I wrote it as a sketch and I just sent it to him and he said he would do it. And then I used an app where I called him and just recorded the call. I was actually on the road. I was up in San Francisco and I wanted to get Weird Al on the record and was like, how do I do it without having him on a song? I didn't, he's not really a metalhead and I kind of was reticent to involve him in that. So I just went, if I can think of a sketch where I use him. And then that was like an obvious thing of, I love the take of asking him to parody one of his songs that is already a parody, to call him and to call him and say, hey, can I make fun of Lump? And he's like, no, that's from the presidency of the United States of America. And then immediately the whole comedy conceit of it, is for me to be the dick, and not make fun of him. I want to be the comedic foil. So I'm the asshole in that bit of me getting it wrong and making because Weird Al is one of the nicest guys in the business.
I've heard that. I've never had the pleasure of meeting him, but I was going to ask about that because how long have you known him? Like, was that literally like you could just pick up the phone and ask him to be on a bit, or like how close?
Yeah, that's what happened with this. But I met him just through the alternative comedy scene. He is a fan, and he would come to these shows that Scott Aukerman would put on, and Chris Hardwick and these other guys, and I think I've known him 15 years now.
Wow.
And,
okay.
And like the first time I saw him at a show, I was just like, holy shit. And he and I actually have a background. In the 90s, he was a guest judge on Star Search when I did Star Search.
Wow.
And he I won the round, and it was in Orlando, Florida. I fly to Florida for a couple of days, and I go and I perform at Disney World and perform in front of Weird Al. And then I won Star Search, and then immediately lost. I was the champ for like an hour, and I walked around Disneyland or Disney World.
Hey, you got to walk around as the champ at Disney World. Yeah. Hey, that's what they do after the Super Bowl, right? That's pretty fucking rad.
It was pretty rad. And then I went back and just got completely destroyed, got my ass handed to me by this lady from San Francisco.
Do you remember her name? Comic. Like, do you remember who it was? And has she gone on to have the career you have?
She was already a commercial person. She was the Pine Sol lady.
Okay.
Big heavy set African American lady.
Yeah, the one that we all know. Yeah, okay.
Her name was Diane Amos, and we were friends. We actually got high in her apartment or in her hotel room.
Wait, were you getting high on Lysol or marijuana?
The night she won, we went back to her room and got super, super high, and then I flew home to San Francisco. But we were already friends. The guy I beat was from San Francisco too.
Dude, that puts a whole nother like perspective when I see that commercial in my head now. Like I saw the commercial as a kid, in between everything I was watching, Saturday morning cartoons, the Lysol lady. That's the power of Lysol,
baby. Huge
baby.
Stoner. She was high as fuck.
That's so rad.
The Pine Sol lady is super high.
I love that.
Yeah, she's the best.
That's so cool. So you guys ended up being friends and everything. That's great.
Yeah. Well, I already knew her. Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
From San Francisco, but yeah.
That's
where I started.
So we touched on Weird Al. Let's get into one of my favorite tracks on the record was where you went for sorry to use the word, but as we do in the industry, more of the butt rock stuff, the glam rock stuff with Phil DeMel, one of my friends. We did a cover together with Chris Jericho and Nita Strauss and Josh of Iron Maiden's Aces High.
Oh, you played on that. Dad, that was awesome.
Oh, thank you.
I saw that.
Yeah, I did that.
Really great.
Chris, it was all Phil's. Phil started it. Chris reached out to me and was like, hey, do you want to do this? And I was like, sure. And I even had Phil on this show too. And Phil's like, oh, I heard you were going to be on it. And I didn't know that you can actually play it. And I was like, fuck you, dude. Of course I can play it. I've grown up on fucking Steve Harris. Steve Harris I've transcribed numerous songs. That was like, once it came to Aces High and it was brought up, I was like, oh, perfect. I basically already know that song. Like, I gotta remember when I did it in high school. So anyways, I digress.
People doing like you guys and what other people have been doing. That's been one of the highlights of my pandemic, is watching people get together and do these songs, like Charlie Benante from Anthrax did a bunch with people, and they're all over. He's in Chicago and people are in San Diego or wherever recording, and it's been fucking so cool. It's
really cool. It's really cool that we have this technology. The pandemic is obviously terrible, and if there's a silver lining, at least we're in a world today where technology like this, like our conversation right now, like this show started out, you should have been here back at the bar having whiskey with me, but this is now the new reality. But with the technology that's out there, we're able to still have some assembly of what we were doing before, and I think that's cool.
Yeah, and who knows if it's ever going to go back exactly to the way it was.
I don't think it will exactly the same. I don't think it will, but yeah.
But yeah, I think it's cool that people have kind of figured out a way to stay entertained, and I love that musicians that didn't want to sit home and get fat or get bored and are playing and trying different things and jamming with the people, and it's been super entertaining.
Yeah. So we did that with Phil, and then you did that song. What was it? Something about your cock. I don't remember the title right now, but you're singing about your cock.
So the whole thing is, it's called Big Fat Rock.
That's right.
And we got to the end of it's one of the songs, the last three songs I said earlier, where Jay Rustin, my producer, is like, hey, you need three more tracks. So I wrote it with Joe Troman from Fall Out Boy. Do you know those guys? Have you ever met them?
Yeah. We've done Warped Tours together. Yeah, I do know them very well.
Joe's a good dude, and he's become one of my best pals, even though he and I have like a 15-year age difference or whatever, but we like the same shit. So I just basically said to him, I go, dude, I want to write a song that Steel Panther would go, nah, this is too stupid.
Oh, fuck yeah. I'm so glad you brought up Steel Panther too. I love
Steel Panther. They're pals of mine.
Yeah.
And like they played my 40th, and a version of them played my wedding. But I've been friends with them. I shot their first video too, and
I didn't realize
for a while.
Yeah, we've been friends with those guys for years, since they were doing it at the Key Club down in LA before they were really Steel Panther,
And they were at the Viper Room before that as Metal Shop, and that's when I met them. And I shot their video, Death to All But Metal. But so I didn't mean it as a bad thing. I'm not making fun of them at all. I was just like, let's go dumber than them. Let's go sillier than them. And, growing up as, there's been all these songs through our lives, if you're a metalhead and hard rock fan, of innuendo. AC/DC was famous for it, Kiss. There's a lot of these dumb lyrics where it's like, hey, is that about his dick? I'm pretty sure.
Is there a Kiss song that's not about their dicks?
Right. But Dr. Love and just stuff like that, where it's kind of like, oh, they're trying to be clever, but oh, you're the doctor of fucking. Is that what you are? Like, you know what I mean? So
yes,
I wanted to break it down, and I wanted to make it completely take any kind of innuendo or double entendre and get rid of it and just have it be single entendre, just no innuendo.
I love the reference to that too in the song. This is not an innuendo. I'm talking about my cock. And then
yes.
Dwayne the Rock Johnson makes a reference there too, which is fucking fantastic. I love wrestling.
You smell what my cock is cooking.
Smell what my cock is cooking. Brilliant.
Brilliant, really? Or the dumbest thing you've ever heard.
That's like, well, sometimes the dumbest. Yeah, of course. Sometimes the dumbest things you ever heard are the most brilliant.
That's what we were going for. And then we went to Phil, and Demel totally has a sense of humor, but he even was like, wow, dude, this song.
I like that you picked Phil, formerly from Machine Head, like one of the heaviest bands, and you put him on the Butt Rock song.
Well, because I know he knows how to play that stuff, and I know and I know he's the biggest Randy Rhoads fan, and so I just wanted an 80s style solo for it, and that's what he did. He just ripped it.
So there was another one. So you had like on the cover of what does the Fox say? You had like a slew of people on them. One of them, Corey Taylor of Slipknot, who through our we have same management, and I don't know if you know, but like Slipknot and Avenged, like it just happened this way. Sometimes they would be in cycle and touring, and we'd share a lot of the same crew members, and then they'd go write a record, and then we'd have the same crew members come in, and we share a lot of the same crew. I only bring that up to say I was not there, but I heard you roasted the shit out of Corey Taylor for his birthday.
Yeah, some people don't like what I did. And I think I lost some friends, and I don't get to do a certain serious XM metal show because of that. Like I kind of blacklisted myself by going so hard. But Corey loved it, and that was what was important. And I even checked with him after that. I checked with him after the thing and went, "Hey man, did I go too hard?" And he's like, "No, that was awesome." But I upset Sean from Slipknot, and I went after him really hard, the clown.
Yeah.
And
but I gotta go fight. There's got to be video of it somewhere. I haven't seen it yet.
It's around. I kind of ate it at a certain part because the live audience was like, "Dude, like, what the fuck are you doing?" Like, I went too brutal.
Did you feel that? Did you feel that? Oh, Jim's a great dude. Did you feel like this was your audition to be on Comedy Central roast for somebody else, or was this just like you're?
No, I'd already done one of those. I've already done one of those.
Who were you on for that one?
I did Bob Saget.
Bob Saget.
Like
I remember that
yeah.
now. I'm glad you brought that up because I did see that. Yeah.
So through that, I got invited to do these. It was the Golden Gods, and it was like through Revolver. And so the first year was Zakk Wylde. I did Zakk Wylde's, and that went really well. And, it was fun, and everybody had a good time. But it was the Corey one where some people got kind of butthurt. Sebastian Bach got really upset at some things that other people had said. So he was already not in a good mood. And then I went on, and I did like 5 minutes on Sebastian's face.
That's amazing. You were just on Chris. So we're talking current right now. You were just on Chris Jericho's podcast, Talk Is Jericho, not too long ago. I think it was like a few weeks ago that episode dropped, right? The more recent one. I'm sure you've been on it a couple of times. But speaking on Chris, like that whole feud, did you see like the Twitter feud between him and Sebastian Bach for a minute there about singing? And it's like,
yeah,
it was amazing to me because I've met Sebastian a handful of times. He's always such a rad dude, this big, larger than life, and really fun loving person. And then
he's
to see
a character,
that, and then to see that, I was just like, wow.
Yeah, that one was a little weird. I definitely took Chris's side on that one, but So Sebastian was there, and maybe he didn't have the best sense of humor, and he didn't like what some of the other people had said. Doug, Jim Norton had gone after him, and and then so I went up and I went really hard, and I went really hard after Sean. But it was the one where I went after Sean there where I lost the audience, and then.
It's so good.
Had people.
It's so good because I know you guys
who worked with Slipknot. I had a guy who worked with Slipknot, so I ran into him like a couple weeks later here in the Valley, and I was like on Ventura, and this guy goes, "Hey man, so have you talked to anybody from Slipknot since you did that?" And I go, "No, what's going on?" And I go, "Is Sean mad?" And he goes, "No, dude, Sean's sad." Like Sean was upset by what you said and took it really, And I was like, God damn it.
It's like, a roast. That's the point.
It's a roast, but it's never a comedian's intention to make somebody sad. Like, no. And you don't want to make a clown sad. Like, that's the saddest thing.
Yeah, of course. The tears of a clown, man. Fucking
no.
Smokey Robinson said it best.
I did Gathering of the Juggalos years ago, and I pissed off those guys and the audience members. And I was like,
I don't think it's very hard. I don't think it's really hard to piss off those guys. I wouldn't say that's an accomplishment, Brian.
Right? No, I know.
Oh, that's funny.
Well, that's the thing. People go, there's such an easy target. For me, I want to go the opposite,
Totally. No, and you
people
went
are
after the big guns with Corey and Slipknot and everything, and you succeeded. I think you should wear that as a badge of honor because I think roasts are meant to do that. And as you said, you never want to make anyone sad, and that's. That sucks, and everyone's got to have.
And I have a list of really cool friends in the metal business, but I also have a list of people that hate me. I think.
I mean, it's metal. Doesn't that like intertwine at some point? It's metal. I've grown up in metal. I know exactly how it is. We hate each other, and then because we don't talk to each other, then once we do, we're all good. That's how it's always been.
Oh, I've had some beefs. Like Rob Flynn wanted to kick my ass for a little while, and then we figured it out. Phil made that happen. Phil's like, hey, Rob.
Phil's the gentleman of the crew there.
Yeah.
Oh man. So I know we keep digressing, but we got to get back to more Grandpa Metal because there's so many other stars that were on this with you. You mentioned Gary Holt of Slayer was on this with you, and he's also I have to ask, what music is played in hell? If Slayer's not played in hell, what music is played in hell?
Well, I think it's anything you hate. I think hell is hell is made personal.
But you don't know from experience. You haven't gone to the other side and come back. You don't have.
No, but I feel like some of the good writers, I feel like have nailed it. I can never pronounce his name, but is it Sartre? It's it's spelled like Sartre, but I think it's pronounced Sartre. And I name drop him at the end. He said, hell is other people.
Oh yeah,
and I love that quote.
I love that too because then you went off about how you hate other people. So
yeah.
And everyone that's been an introvert.
I was drawing from that.
That's great. And then another one that was really cool that it was funny, dude. You get into the fact that you're a quarter Viking, 3/4 pussy. And again, I'll bring back up Chris Jericho's podcast where you're talking about how you were picked on as a kid, but like by the little guys. You mentioned something about how it was always the smaller guys, probably guys of my stature that were looking up at you. You're a foot taller and had fun poking fun at you because you wouldn't do anything back. Right.
They knew they weren't. Yeah, I wasn't going to get pissed. Well, I was going to get pissed off, but I wasn't going to swing at him.
That's so amazing. Why did you never? I really got asked that. Why did you never just at one point just pull the old arm out and hold their forehead thing?
Well, no one taught me how to throw a punch is part of it. I didn't have any males to teach me any of that stuff. And there was the wrestling coach in my high school lived in my neighborhood. And would always say, he actually said one time, like, hey, Posehn, come over here and I'll show you how to throw or how to take a punch.
He didn't show you how to throw one. He said, come here and I'll show you how to take a punch.
I'll show you how to take a punch. And I was like, no, grown adult, I'm not coming onto your property to learn how to take a punch.
Oh, that's very
wind up in your basement with a gas rag in my mouth.
It's very wise of you.
That's not the only, and I still am a pacifist, and I think it's because I never fought back, and it just didn't mean anything to me. And when kids it hurt my feelings, but the punches didn't hurt that much. That kind of stuff went away, and so I don't know, for a couple of reasons, I just never learned to fight back, and I did, whether I didn't want to but then I became a smart ass. And it got worse. I kind of didn't figure out how to really deal with those kind of people, to deal with bullies. I think the way is to avoid them, but I never did that. I would just go harder. Well,
you're a metalhead.
I got in trouble.
You're a metalhead. Yeah,
I got in trouble.
In similar ways, but very different because I wasn't picked on. I definitely was the antagonist in a lot of situations, and then I'm smaller, so I get my ass kicked. But I would definitely start it sometimes because I'm sarcastic, a little asshole sometimes.
And then I'd heard, that's how it works.
Yeah.
But I'd heard like stand up. I'd heard like, I think Steve Martin had done a bit, or Eddie Murphy. Somebody did a bit about like acting crazy when people are picking on you or trying to start a fight. So then I did that in 7th grade, where a new kid came to school and threatened me, and or was like messing with me. And so I said that, you may kick my ass, but I'll find out where you live and I'll kill you in your sleep. And I said like all this really dark, like metal shit and like horror movie shit. And then
love it.
Next thing I knew, I was meeting the school therapist, and my mom was at school, and the principal, like, there's 6 people in the office, 6 grownups in the office. And they're like, hey, you threatened to kill this kid. Like, this is way pre-Columbine.
Oh, yeah.
There'd only been like the girl in San Diego who had done a school. That's what people don't remember. Girls started school shootings. The first one was down that song by the Boomtown Rats, I Don't Like Mondays.
Oh, I do. As you're saying it, yeah. Now
That's about a girl who she killed kids at her school because she didn't like Mondays, and she was the first. People forget.
Well, I'm glad you're speaking knowledge on me right now, because I had forgotten about that, or if I ever knew it.
My weird tangent. But at any
how
rate,
how did that subject not make it on Grandpa Metal? I think you need a reprise.
The next record.
One last person I got to talk about on Grandpa Metal is the legendary Kim Thile from Soundgarden, and he was in your video. I mean, there's the video for Grandpa Metal. If you guys haven't already checked it out, go check it out. It's everywhere you normally find videos. Come on. And you have everyone. You did it. It looks like you guys did it under quarantine. And it's another one of these quarantine videos. I bring up Kim just because I particularly like the way that he did it. And with like the loading sign is happening on his thing, and he's just like kind of chilling, and he's, the legendary Kim Thile. How did that come about? And when he sent you that video, did you think it was fucking pure gold? And you're like, yep, this is what we're using.
Well, that was all my director working with him. My director wrote those bits.
Oh, rad.
Who's done some. So it was directed. I mean, it does look like a quarantine video, but it was directed like a regular video because we actually started it in February and then had to shut down because of all this. So we, there's some of the stuff we had already pre-shot, and I just said, hey man, we got to get this out, and who knows how long we're going to be stuck like this, so let's make it look like one of these videos that Charlie was doing and like you guys did. And so that's how that all came about. And Kim Thale was already on the record, so I said, hey man, will you do this solo? And then they worked out those beats. That was all my director of like, let's mix this up and let's not have it be straight. It still has to be a comedy video. So we put the stuff of him loading. He's making coffee at one point while,
not really playing guitar, which I appreciate, because a lot of them is, as you said, a lot of these quarantine videos, everyone's set up the camera. Here I am playing, and I'll make some funny faces here and there and stuff. And I appreciate a little bit of some real video action where it's like, okay, we all know that's not what you really played on the thing. You didn't, so this was what was done. Now have some fun with it like you would on a normal music video shoot.
Right. And for us, it was just trying to get the most jokes per minute that we could get.
Yeah.
Visually. And
I've talked to some other comedians about jokes per minute where they get off stage and they're like, oh, there's a certain thing where people will talk about jokes per minute and stuff. And like, that's a thing, right? Like in the comedic world, you guys talk about jokes per minute. Like you just brushed over it, but I picked up on that because I've talked to some other comedians. And what is this jokes per minute? Like, can you explain it for some of the listeners a little bit?
Well, it just comes from, you want to keep people involved and happy and whatever, so whether it's, if you're writing a script, you say jokes per the page, but if you're writing a comedy script or a sketch that's where it came for me. I'm more of a writer than I am a performer. That's what I love the most. I get the most pleasure out of actually the structure part of it, the nerdy part of making comedy. and it sounds weird, but
I love that. It just makes perfect sense for you. I mean, everyone can see it.
I could just sit here and write jokes and give them to other people and be totally fine with that. But I also do enjoy saying them myself.
Yeah.
But,
well, I think you have a great presentation of your jokes. I mean, that's great. I mean, I don't think a lot of I'm sure you have written for other things as you said, but I'm sure you feel it too. Like some jokes just have to come from you because your delivery is what's going to make that joke.
Yeah. Well, and I don't think other people could write for me really. Like, I don't know. I haven't really dealt with that much. But I've definitely written for other people but you got to write to their voice. But then, I obviously know my own voice. So.
And it's a very distinct voice.
It's easier.
So how was it singing on a record though? On Grandpa Metal, like there was a lot of, I knew you, you're a metalhead. Again, we've been in passing. This record just came out. I had no idea you were working on a record. We've been in passing. We've been in, Golden Gods, all mutual friends, all this and that and the other. I didn't know that you had a voice like that, where you could actually do some metal, like some growling and some screaming shit. I didn't know that was something that was in your repertoire.
Yeah, I just kind of found it, and some of that came through voice acting too. I mean, I already have like this deep voice. Mm-hmm. I can't go high, but I can go deeper.
Is that why you had someone else for Take on Me? Like you couldn't do that, right?
Yeah, no, and like on More Metal Than You, the song I did like 6 or 8 years ago, that was Mark Casagueda at the beginning because I was like, this needs a scream, but I can't do that. Let me get my pal from Death Angel to scream.
Perfect.
Yeah, I can do I can do that stuff pretty easily. I've just sort of found that. I think most metalheads can kind of do a version of the Cookie Monster because just from listening to it,
Right.
The first, I feel like Chuck Billy doesn't get a ton of credit for it, but I feel like he was the first time I heard somebody do that, like where they really changed their voice in the late 80s, early 90s, where I heard him go, and I was like, oh, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
And then it was, all the, Florida bands started doing that. And,
yeah, for me, I always respected a lot, like Phil Anselmo of Pantera, where it was a scream, it was that guttural thing, but then you could actually still hear a note being sang. That was for me. I was like, oh, okay, I get it now.
Phil had a great voice, and I feel like he kind of got away from what was so great about his voice. I think the best Pantera song for him is Cemetery Gates. Like of anybody or of any song that kind of highlighted him. I feel like almost every other song highlighted Dime. It was really about.
Well, Cowboys for Hell for me was like, you could tell that they were starting to go in a different direction from, well, I mean, I say as if I was a child then, but just going back and listening when Pantera was a glam band, as I used the term earlier, butt rock band. And Cowboys from Hell was that first transition where the production value of it, the riffs were heavier, but the production value of it, if you go back and listen, that was a butt rock production. Like that was an absolute butt rock production.
They came from out of nowhere to me. I was working at a record store at the time, and so I already knew who they were from the Jungle one and then a Power Metal one album, and they were a joke. Like they were.
Yeah, I know. It's fun. It's funny to laugh about it.
To people working in a record store, I was the metal label guy. I was dealing with all the independent labels, but I was also dealing with, all the big records that were coming out, and they weren't on a major label. They, till Cowboys, and they were just kind of considered, who are these Texas idiots who, are trying to do Van Halen and that's what it felt like, and they were kind of goofy. And then that record came. Voice. But the first time I heard Cowboys from Hell, I was working at a tower with a buddy, and we were both like on our shift, going, "This can't be good." And we put it in, and we're like, "Oh my god!" Like this band got 1,000,000 times better in like the span of a year or two. It was pretty crazy.
And then they go on to make all the
different band.
Totally,
Yeah.
and then they go on to make all the legendary records that they did. That
they kind of saved metal in the 90s.
Totally.
In the early 90s, before they broke, Metallica had that massive record, and Guns N' Roses had that massive record.
And Megadeth had Countdown to Extinction, which was massive.
But then grunge kind of took over because 2 years later, then it's all Pearl Jam and it's all Nirvana and it's all that, and then Pantera kind of stuck out. We'll put Cowboys during 92, but then the next record was Vulgar Display. That like blew people's heads off, and it was like the heaviest record of the year, but it was also a massive record and kind of
with the anthem of Walk on Vulgar Display, it was just like, and we did a cover of it too because it's such an anthem. We did it on Ozfest. We started playing it live, and then people gravitated towards it. We ended up recording it. I digress, but but
outside of Metallica, everybody was getting dropped. Like
totally.
Bands like Testament was getting dropped by their labels. Violence, all that stuff was going away. Anthrax moved to another label, and Pantera was the one that was like still carrying the flag.
Yeah, and fucking doing it very well. Rest in peace to both the brothers there.
Dude,
so tragic.
Sucks.
But Vinny,
I
never had the chance to meet to hang out and meet with Dime, but I have over the years before his passing hung out many times with Vinny. Vinny was such a great dude. I had so much fun. The strip clubs. So many. I wish for my fans. I just started the podcast like a year ago. For my fans, God, the conversations that we could have had on this thing would have blown some people's fucking minds. And now I can't. Now I can't fucking talk about it.
To have Vinny on the show.
To have Vinny on the show would have been something. Something to behold, as with your interactions with him. Such a good dude and such a wild man.
Yeah, I spent some time in Dallas hanging with them and just
I said that laugh says it all. That laugh says it all, Brian. So that's what I'm saying. I can't say these things. I wish I could be talking with him and we could say them together, but I can't in good confidence say some of the things that transpired.
Yeah, just a character, but he made it fun. He was like the best host when you're hanging out with him, and just a good dude.
Such a good dude. Again, I thank you so much for your time this morning. I wish we were drinking, but it's pretty fucking early, so we're not gonna have next time without the cameras, with the cameras, whatever. We're gonna. Yeah,
I was a little worried about that. I saw the drink thing, and I was like, "Does he expect me to drink at 10 a.m.?"
10 a.m., man. I mean, it's quarantine, dude. What the fuck else you got to do?
Yeah.
No, I'm not that big of a dick, but I definitely next time. We'll do it at a different hour. We'll have some drinks with or without the cameras and the recording. I'd love to hang and chat with you some more and have some drinks and talk about some whiskey.
Man. Yeah, great talking with you.
Yeah, man. Everyone go check out Brian Posehn. Your socials are just Brian Posehn, right? At Brian Posehn.
Yep. Yeah, and I think it's on Twitter. It's the Brian Posehn, but
you got to put the
some other kid had.
Someone's always stealing
kid bought
some
my
shit.
name and then didn't do anything with it. But yeah, so September 19th, the show, rushtix.com.
Yeah, everyone go to rushtix.com. Get some tickets to the virtual show that Brian's putting on September 19th. That's this week. Because we're recording a week in advance.
Oh, cool.
It will be this. So we're releasing this on Monday. On that Friday. Brian Posehn live. Everyone go check it out. Appreciate your time. Again, so much more we could get into. We're going to save that for a later date. Appreciate the time again, and cheers.